Thanks, Jason. So a few things. So first, homelessness, we've been focused on homelessness since before it was a citywide crisis. We had an emergency along the LA River. We have multiple sort of jurisdictions, LA County flood, Southern California Edison, where you clean up an encampment and folks just jump the fence and go to the other side. And so we've been dealing with this for quite some time. I've been doing ride-alongs for about 12 years. What I can tell you is there is a philosophical difference between the two of us. When the homeless crisis really grew citywide, my opponent's first approach was to hire a special prosecutor to prosecute those panhandling in Belmont Shore and push them to the other communities. And the reality is we have to address root causes. We need to think about building our own local capacity to deal with homelessness. That's why I stepped forward to build the city's first municipal homeless shelter, because Martin v. Boise said you couldn't enforce your anti-camping laws unless you actually had capacity to do services and housing. And so by doing so, it inspired the city to do more. We now have 3 Project Room Key sites in all parts of town after we built the Atlantic Bridge community, and we just acquired the Luxury Inn to build a 4th. We have to build our own capacity to deal with these issues. Thank you.
Suzie, do you want to, I mean, and before, if you do want to respond to that, I will say, just for context, that during your time on the council, you have authored a number of items focused on a variety of issues, around homelessness, whether it be like the bike shop ordinance, or I know when we talked about it the other day, you said it was not called the panhandling ordinance, but it was. Go ahead and respond to that.
Sure. So first of all, the first council member on the City of Long Beach current city council that ever brought an item on homelessness was me in 2017. It was entitled Comprehensive Approach to Homelessness. And it involved every single innovative idea that's being used throughout the country. Homeless work programs, interdepartmental teams to work together. So this thing that the first thing we did was hire a neighborhood impact prosecutor is just baloney, and it's a flat out lie. Now, we did hire a neighborhood impact prosecutor, but not to prosecute panhandling. Panhandling is not illegal. Anybody who knows the law would understand that. What we hired the neighborhood impact prosecutor to do was to make sure that violations of the California law and local ordinances are followed up upon by the prosecutor when an arrest is made. Not to make arrest, but when an arrest is made, have a special dedicated prosecutor. And that outreach was effective. And in fact, the city council, the entire city council, just funded a neighborhood impact prosecutor, including Councilman Richardson, who voted for it.
Well, there is a new state law that was recently signed by the governor, CARES Court. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. If you guys are watching at home, it basically allows cities now or a variety of people to, if somebody's having a mental health issue or a drug addiction issue, they, in so many words, a court can force them into a treatment plan. Now, prior to the governor's signing of that, our city council, you guys, asked for options of how to implement it locally. So my question is are you guys supportive of CARE Court? And, given the ask about options for implementing it locally, if it is allowed, how do you think it should be tailored here in Long Beach if that becomes a reality? And I think the first is Suzie.
Thank you, Jason. I think there's a lot of misinformation about CARES Court. So CARES Court is going to roll out in Orange County in January of 2023. I'm already at the table on those discussions. It'll roll out in LA County in January 2024. The standard for CARES Court is a very high standard. It's the 5150 standard. So about 80% of those experiencing mental health issues that are living on the streets today will not qualify for a CARES Court referral, because CARES Court standard is someone is a danger to themselves or others, which would traditionally require a 72-hour hold, but now it's going to allow a court to compel services for someone up to 2 years. But again, the threshold is the 5150 standard. So CARES Court is not the solution that a lot of people think it's going to be to compel people into services. Even with CARES Court, the number one way to get people into services is through developing a relationship based on trust and dignity and respect, because it's still going to be a voluntary service. Now, under CARES Court, police officers will be added to the category of individuals who can refer those that they encounter directly to the courts for consideration of CARES Court, which is a type of conservatorship. Of course, Long Beach needs to be part of the CARES Court rollout. I'm concerned about whether the funding that the state has set aside for CARES Court is sufficient to address all 58 counties' needs. And so we'll get to learn some of those lessons with the rollout in the first year. I believe there's 8 or 9 counties that'll be rolling out in January, and we'll be able to watch best practices and lessons learned so that when it rolls out in Long Beach in January of 2024, we'll be in a position to be able to implement it, having the benefit of the lessons learned from the other counties and knowing what additional funding will be required. It's a great step in the right direction, but it is not a cure-all for the issue of homelessness that many people think it is.